I'm James Beckwith, President and CEO of Five Star Bank. As a community bank, we believe that open dialogue about the issues affecting our region is vitally important. From the economy to the environment to social issues, we look forward to the conversations and hope you'll join in.
It's often been said that America is the land of opportunity. The story of how people come to America is often as interesting as what they do once they get here. This is certainly true for Sacramento entrepreneur Ettore Ravazzolo. Ettore came to America in 1977, unable to speak English and virtually penniless. Yet in the 35 years since he came to our shores, Ettore has been the quintessential Horatio Alger American success story. As anyone who has ever been to his bustling bakery and cafe in Sacramento will tell you, Ettore's menu is much like its founder, passionate, complex, and opinionated. Today, Ettore Ravazzolo joins us on Studio Sacramento to share with us his very unique version of the American dream. Welcome to the program.
Well, thank you. Thank you for having me.
So, why pastry?
Well, I'm a trained pastry chef. That's my training. That's the only thing I know in life is making pastries.
But what got you so passionate about pastry in the first place?
Well, my grandfather was a chef. Before I was born, he owned a restaurant in Switzerland, and he was a great cook. And then when, as a child, my father, both my parents worked, and my grandfather was taking care of the family. And he would cook at home every day. And I came home from school, or I would come home from school, watch him cooking. And I always said, no, he was Italian, tall Italian guy, heavy set and strong man. And I said, no, I want to be a chef. And so my dream was become a chef. And then during the time in my teenage year, I changed my mind to become a pastry chef. One of my best friends in school, his family owned a bakery in the village where I grew up, and I would go there and help after school or on a weekend, and I just got passionate about pastry.
Now, I wanted to ask you, it's been said, you mentioned your grandfather.
Yeah.
And it's been said that for men, cooking is the closest that we come creatively to giving birth. What's your reaction to that?
Well, I don't know about that, but you know, it is interesting because cooking professionally was always a male profession. When you look back in the 17th, 18th century, where you know, the cooking trade came on, which was during the kingship. You know, only the kings could have pastry baker and candy maker and pastry people on their court. The common people couldn't afford it. And the great chef came, or the cooks who cooked for the kings. These were all male profession. This was a trade, and they had to learn. And it was a very high esteemed profession, pastry and cooking for the king in the court of the kings. And so it was always a male profession. Only over, I would say, maybe when I started my apprenticeship, we start having women in apprenticeship, very rarely women, was mostly male. So, you know, it's always been a very masculine profession.
Right. What gives you the most joy in the kitchen?
Creating.
Creating.
Yeah. And that is really one of the reasons why, you know, the profession itself is really not a high-paying, make a lot of money profession. And in order to be successful, you really have to have passion. Mm-hmm. And if you have passion, that's what makes you successful in that profession. Not the money, it's the passion that you have.
Well, passion seems to be a thread that runs throughout your life. Tell us your story. Give us where you began back in Switzerland.
Well, I grew up in a pretty typical Swiss dysfunctional family, like most people do. Both my parents were working. I had a stepmom. My father was divorced, and I grew up partially in an orphanage home. My father remarried, and then we had our stepmom, but they both worked. My grandfather, like I said, would take care of us. He died when I was 10 years old. Mm-hmm. Then I started taking over the kitchen because I knew how to cook at that time. So I would start cooking at home and taking care of the kitchen. And that's where I got the passion for cooking.
Now, you say that you spent some time in an orphanage.
Yes.
What did that experience do in terms of how you deal with the world? I mean, that you must have had to really rely on yourself. And
yes.
You're by yourself, or you have brothers and sisters?
I have brothers, sisters, siblings, but they were in a different wing of, well, and you have to understand that was in 1954, in that time period. I was born in 52, so I was in an orphanage home when I was 2 years old, so 54 and all that. Child psychology didn't exist. I mean, we just, you know, you were actually mistreated as far as I'm concerned, almost to the point to abuse. But, you know, you get your scars from that period. I remember some of those things. And it was not easy. So you become self-reliant because you had to fight for your own rights there. Unfortunately, when my father remarried and the family life, I had to rely on myself a lot, all our children. We couldn't really go to the parents for the things that a child needed. And so we become, in our young age, always took care of ourselves. One of the things I did right away, if I wanted something, I had to take care of it, do it myself or earn the money. So I started working since I was 10 years old. I would knock on doors in companies and say, can I work during the summertime, of course, vacation time? And they say, oh yeah, you hire you for $1 or whatever to empty the garbage or whatever.
Now you came here with $350 in your pocket.
$600, I think.
$600.
I remember, or something like that. I don't know, or maybe 600 Swiss francs, which was maybe about $250 at that time. I don't remember.
How did that happen?
Well, you know, I never had a lot of money, and I had to pay for my own flight to come to America and take care of all that stuff. And in Switzerland, you know, when you leave the country, there are certain things you need to do in order to come
But what
away.
brought you here?
Okay, well, I got made a friend in Geneva. I was working in the French part of Switzerland in a town, and I visited Geneva and went to a dance there for my local church there, and I met this gentleman whose family owned a business in Sacramento, was called the Eclair Bakery. And he said, come to America. And his family started a paper for me, initiation to come to America. And a year later, I was here.
And so the journey from coming here to America and to the point where you opened up your first restaurant.
Yes.
Okay, your first bakery and restaurant. How did that happen for a guy who came with
nothing?
600 Swiss francs or $200 in cash?
Well, I always wanted my own business. That, you know, that is really actually the American dream we talk about. You come to America and you see the opportunity. And I always said, one day I will have my own shop. But in order to do that, you need to have money, which I don't really had. I had a job, a good job, but you have to pay your bills and all that. I worked as a pastry chef in hotels, country clubs. I moved from Sacramento then to the south, mostly in the south, Florida, Georgia, Missouri, Texas. Worked in country clubs and hotels, which they wanted European chefs. And then I came back to Sacramento because I had friends here and I always liked Sacramento and I needed a job. I worked for a little croissant place called Viva Croissant. It was owned by a lawyer and he needed somebody running his business and baking for him. And that's how I worked for him for a year. Was not a really high-paying job. At that time I had a family that I needed a little more money. And he couldn't really afford it. So I left and went as a consultant in the Bay Area. And then he wanted to sell his business then after I left because he didn't do too well. And I asked him, are you willing to sell the business to me? And he trusted me.
So you took the risk.
I took the risk. Well, I didn't have to come up with money. He financed actually the whole business. It wasn't a lot of money.
You must be a good negotiator.
Well, you know what it was? He knew that he trusted me because I worked for him for a year and he made money while I worked there. And I was there always on time. I built up his business. And so he trusted me that if he financed it, that I don't run away or, you know.
Well, let's talk about those personal qualities for a second. What do you consider to be the qualities that were most important in the success that you've achieved?
Well, personally, I always believed hard work, and honesty, trustworthiness. You know, when you deal with people, that you keep your word. When you say you're going to pay, you know, in business, you pay a bill, you pay a bill. If you have a problem, you be honest with the people and say, I have a problem, to pay a bill. You know, so when people start trusting you, I think that's very important in business, and I think that is one of the two qualities that helped me over the last 27 years. I think. You know, every business goes through some ups and downs, and I think how you handle those downs, mostly those downs, even the ups, I think really defines who you are in business. And you know, I have stories where I had financial problem and I needed to deal with it, and my hard work and honesty paid off. That was the reward to survive. You know.
Now you've got 3 children, right?
I have 3 children.
3 children. What are, if there were 2 or 3 lessons that you hope that they take away from watching you all these years growing up, what would they be?
Well, first of all, hard work will make, and honesty and self-reliance. Take responsibility and take charge of your own life. Don't rely on anybody else. Always, you know, it sounds harsh, and I do believe we need friends, we need advice, we need to go to somebody to cry on a shoulder, someone's shoulder, and sometimes you do need somebody helping you, but you know, I believe that you need to take charge of your own life and make your own success, or, you know, your own failure for that matter.
When you talk about self-reliance, but we all need friends, who do you rely on? Who's had a major influence on your life?
Well, my boss that I did my apprenticeship, which was in 68 to 71, he was a big influence. He taught me to be self-reliant and with the profession. You know, I don't have a specific person. I think I would say right now, one of the great partners I have is my wife. If I have something, I can talk to her. I have friends in the community that I can talk to. You know, when you own a business, and I'm sure you know that, and everybody, I believe it's true for anybody. When you're on top, you're lonely up there.
Oh yeah.
You know, dealing with the pressure and the problems that a business brings, and so it's good to have somebody you can confide what's bothering you and all.
Well, tell us more about your wife. Well, what role does she play in the business?
Well, you know, she's helping me running the business right now, mostly the front and with the staff, the day-to-day, so I don't have to really take care of that. I still be in the back of the house dealing with the, you know, production and what's going on. She's more with the customer and sales staff. And
are you more of a customer guy, or are you more of a...
No, I'm a back guy. I'm not too much with customer. I like to be in the back and do the job and get it done, you know.
Well, let's talk about doing the job. We've got this cornucopia of wonderful goodies here. Walk us through what you've been kind enough to bring to us today.
Well, we're a so-called full-line bakery, and also called scratch baking, which is really something that goes more and more goes away now. Scratch baking, meaning you make everything from scratch. A lot of bakeries buy frozen product and bake it off, or they buy mixes and bake it off. We do probably 99.5% all scratch baking. We make our dough, and then we make the product. So we make breakfast pastries, which I have here, and our variety of breakfast pastries. Danish cinnamon rolls, croissant, puff pastry. Our puff pastries are fantastic. Everything we do is done every day fresh. We don't sell old ones. We donate the old ones to a charitable organization. It's made with 100% butter, which in baking, butter is the best ingredients to make a high quality product. A lot of bakeries use margarine or half and half. I always used 100% butter. Costs more money. Butter is the most expensive fat.
So for our home bakers, your advice is
use butter.
Spend the extra money, use the butter.
Use butter, sweet butter, not salted butter. Otherwise it's over salted, you know, because the recipe asks for salt. So yeah, butter is always. So we make the breakfast pastries every day. We make cookies over there. European style cookies. you see a chocolate chip cookies. I didn't make any chocolate chip cookies. Started about 5 or 6 years ago before I refused to make it. And people said, why don't you make? Because I have a philosophy. I want to be different than anybody else.
Oh, so that's a little bit too lowbrow for you to make chocolate chip cookies?
Yeah, I thought, well, this is American stuff. We're not that good, Well, it's really, when you really think about it, what can you do with a chocolate chip cookie? It's overrated, overdone, over whatever people say they have the best chocolate chip cookies. Well, you have to have certain ingredients. They all have the same ingredients with minor little things here and there. Well, finally I said, maybe I should, because I'm losing money. People want a chocolate chip cookie. So I created a chocolate chip cookie that is pretty good. Really what it is the baking is really the trick on the chocolate chip cookies. Yeah, that you don't overbake it. But I have 100% butter in it. And it has real chocolate in it, and I use dark chocolate and white chocolate, so it gives a little touch there, But a lot of European cookies. And then we're making cakes. We're well known for our cakes. We're creating all these new cakes that peanut butter chocolate cake is a new creation we started a few months ago and becoming already a bestseller. About a year and a half ago, 2 years ago, I started the red velvet cake, which I never wanted to do. I thought, this is too American. I want to do European cake.
Are you a bit of a pastry snob?
Oh, definitely. Of course I am. I'm a Swiss pastry chef, So, but I'm a businessman too. So, well,
so the businessman overwhelmed the snob.
I mean, definitely. I have to pay my bills, Well, I'll give you a good story, really good story. I refused to make pumpkin pie for years. Well, guess what? I mean, on Thanksgiving, that's the #1 item. And people walk in and I say, I don't like pumpkin pie. This is not high quality stuff. Then I had a friend who made pumpkin pie and he made 1,000 pumpkin pie. I said, wait a minute, that's not really smart business practice there. I maybe have to be a little smarter than that. Forget that philosophy. And I started making pumpkin pie. Now we sell a lot of pumpkin pie.
Good for you.
So good for me and the people.
Well,
anyway.
You know what? You're an artist, okay?
Yeah.
And so when I look at a red velvet cake with the flowers on it,
real flower, real
that's
roses.
like a piece of edible art.
Yeah, it is.
And so, how do you come up with the concepts to do something like this? Just describe for our audience what you did here in terms of the flowers and the cake itself.
Well, it's really, I stole the idea from somebody else. In baking, what I do is one of my favorite activities visiting other bakery, which I actually did. I was gone for several weeks and went to Chicago, New York, and visit friends and bakeries and learn from them. And I come back with new ideas and say, I'm going to do that, but I change it a little bit. So what you're doing is I take ideas and I tweak it my way, the way I think it should be. That cake with the red roses, I saw a friend of mine who has a very successful bakery, he makes it, and I actually copied him, which is very, very common. A lot of people copied me. So it's almost like, but I do, the cake is different. What I've been doing, the recipe of the cake is different than my friend does, but the decoration is pretty much what he's been doing.
Now, you talk about visiting Chicago and New York and cities like that. One of the common comments about you and about the bakery and restaurant is that people feel very, very grateful that we have you in Sacramento, and you decided to stay.
Yeah.
Why are you here?
Well, I started...
We know how you got here, but why are you still here?
Well, I started in Sacramento, and I went many places, in Atlanta, Florida, nice places, and I had certainly opportunity to stay there. I always loved Sacramento. The reason why, first of all, I didn't know till later, it's a Swiss town. Sacramento was founded by Swiss, John Sutter. He was Swiss. And a lot of people don't know that, and I'm actually proud of that fact, So it was called New Helvetia, and but I always liked Sacramento because I liked the fact that it has 2 rivers, has recreation. You close to San Francisco, one of the greatest cities, close to the mountains, has all the recreation. I just always liked it. I worked in big cities like Atlanta and all the other places, and I never really cared for big cities.
You've got some strong opinions though about Sacramento. And its relationship to places like San Francisco, about what we should be taking pride in based on what you love. Can you share with us a little bit about that?
Well, I think Sacramento is a great city that is underrated. I really think. I mean, just look at the American River Parkway. That it's a jewel of Sacramento. I think people are great here. I think there is so much potential here. You know, just the living here and the climate. I like the climate. People say, "Oh, Sacramento is hot." I said, "Yeah, but have you been in Atlanta? That it's 95 degrees but 100% humidity." Mm-hmm. And it's humid, it's hot till 11 o'clock at night. Here it cools down at night. I really like the climate. I think Sacramento has a lot of potential. And, you know, looking back over the last 27 years, it really has grown into a nice city, no question about it. We have, you know, baseball, we have great art here. I have no complaint about that. I think Sacramento is a great city to live in.
But you have had some complaints about how the place works. So tell us a little bit about that.
As a businessman, I have to tell you honestly, as a businessman, you know, you always worry about how business affect you where you live. And, you know, we live in California. Sacramento alone is not necessarily standout. It's, in general, California is not an easy business climate here. Knowing from my friend, in Minneapolis, in Chicago, in Texas, Atlanta, wherever they are, what they have to do and what I have to do is sometimes day and night. And I say, oh, I wish we don't have to do that. So the political climate here, or the rules and regulation we have, is sometimes a little burdensome and make it difficult.
Do you have a quick example of one thing where it is that in another part of the country you wouldn't have to?
Well, workman's comp, for example. Oh yeah, now, you know, when Schwarzenegger came in, he lowered their workman's comp. That was good, but I remember I paid over $100,000 of workman's comp as a small business owner.
$100,000 to bake?
To bake, with having, at that time I had about 80 employees. Well, for a small business, that actually, I remember when that happened, it doubled from $58,000 to $108,000, went up to $118,000 and went over $120,000 for a year there. And then Schwarzenegger came in and it went down right away. But I created a financial hardship right there. And I remember people actually left California because of that. They just couldn't afford that. And I'm still a small business.
Right. So let's make you a really big business, okay?
Yeah.
In fact, we're going to make you now, instead of the CEO of the bakery and restaurant, we're going to give you all of California, including Sacramento, for a month. Give me three things.
I think I get in trouble doing that one. I think everybody will. I have certainly ideas what needs to be done, but you know what? I think regulation should really has to be looked at it, you know. I mean, I've been dealing with health department, which is a good thing to have. Definitely safety is a big issue. But I've been dealing with, you know, the county with, I built a patio 2 years ago. It was a nightmare. Mm-hmm. And that was during a recession. Mm-hmm. And I would say, why? I mean, I wanted to create more jobs and more revenue so I can pay taxes, and you make my life miserable. And, you know, so things like that, regulation can be very hard on a business. I don't know. I don't know. I mean, that is not really something specific because it's just my opinion, one man's opinion.
Hey, you know what? One man's opinion can change the world. So
well, let's say that, Scott. We all agree if a private industry would run like the government will run the business, I would be out of business in about 2 months. That's no question about it. Mm-hmm. I mean, and vice versa, if maybe the government would run like a private industry, maybe they would be successful. Okay. So maybe that, you know, maybe that is my opinion.
Let's talk about success a little bit. What's your personal definition of success?
Certainly not financial. It's part of it maybe, but certainly not financial. I think the financial is just a reward of doing the things, the right things that you should do. I think success for me is feeling like that what you're doing makes a difference in life. I think your family has certainly to do with success. Be happy that you have healthy and you have a life in a nice place. I get up in the morning and I'm grateful that I have a business that makes money. I have employees who are good, that I can pay my bills, and I can, one of my biggest things is that my biggest responsibility is not making money for me, but enough money I can pay them because they have family to support. I love to be part of the community, be in Sacramento, because I've been so many years, and that's the longest place I've ever been in my life. And I'm part of Sacramento, I'm part of the community, and getting involved in helping the community to be a better place. And that makes me happy.
And with that, we're going to leave it there.
Thank you.
Ettore, thank you so much for coming to Studio Sacramento.
It was an interesting interview.
Much success to you.
Thank you.
And that's our show. Thanks to our guests, Ettore Ravazzolo, and thank you for watching Studio Sacramento. I'm Scott Syfax. See you next time right here on KVIE.
I'm James Beckwith, President and CEO of Five Star Bank. As a community bank, we believe that open dialogue about the issues affecting our region is vitally important. From the economy to the environment to social issues, we look forward to the conversations and hope you'll join in.